Any more questions? But till we get more questions, I want to ask, since you mentioned about some of the work that you did during your 2 years period at office, one area that is closer to us is state-owned enterprises, which Advocata Institute and our team has worked. Did you lose enthusiasm on reforming it towards the latter part, if I may ask? Because that was one, and of course my chairman was in the committee.
Yeah.
While it's part of globalization and opening for investment, in 2 years we could not do any, I mean, there were governance structures and agree that there was a holding company recommended at the IMF governance report. Did you get scared that because of the elections that you had to slow it down, or whether there was vested interest? I'll ask it very straightforward.
No, nothing. The SOE reforms are there. First year we were not focusing on, we had to get the growth going. And then of course there's a committee, and the members of the committee insisted that they follow all the proper steps. You know that. I used to push them, but they said no, we don't want questions coming up later and for us to be locked up. So they followed all the things. Everything was ready to go, and there were, in fact, by the time we came to about July or so, there were offers. But at that stage I said elections is coming, don't go and have a transaction, they'll say that someone benefited. So leave it, otherwise it could have been finished off by end of December. No, it was to follow the proper path, and there were many discussions with them. There has never been a delay, but okay, if this is what they want, even the IMF said follow what the committee says. So it takes time, because you have to go through everything. There were so many things missing. The committee wanted to get all the papers together. That alone takes you a fairly long time.
Any questions? I have few more. I think there is a young audience. Do you have any questions on globalization, on challenges? Okay. Yes.
Hello, Dr. Rajapatra. Question for you. I think at least that one big factor with regards to our attitude towards globalization as a country is that people see this sense of disparity between industries when it comes to the income of globalization. Export-led industries or services, they kind of do far better than lower-skilled labor-led industries. So do you think, with regards to solving this issue, social cushioning policies are the way to go? Whereas like human capital investments or training, targeted transfers, things like that are the way to go? Or is there another way to tackle this issue?
Whether there is globalization or not, people have to live. The government has to provide. For example, at the end of the last program that we had, people are having great difficulties, getting milk, food, setting in queues and all that. So we avoiding that is the first thing we can do, right? The thing is that also we have to relearn to use markets. The markets are good. There are some exceptions. But that if we follow those things that we have did in the past, we'll be okay. They don't have to be very special interventions into the system to help people. I mean, at that time of the crisis, it was not so much economics that we talked about. That we have to save the people first.
Yeah, I always tell the people, on the crisis, of course, I must thank Advocata and him. We had discussed it before I even became Prime Minister.
Yeah.
We spent COVID discussing it. I think I came to office also. What to do? So what had to be done, I think, we met Murtaza. What had to be done could be left to them, and then they had to come back with details. We were ready for that.
Yeah.
We had a group, I just put them in with the senior officials like the governor and Siriwardena. And then it just kept rolling along here. Anushka was there, 3-4 of them. We knew what we were going to do, so we had no problem on that, and they had to come back with it. How old are you?
I'm 20.
20?
Yeah.
Where do you stay?
I live in Colombo. I'm working with Advocata right now. But
Advocata. You have electricity there?
Yeah.
You have water there?
Yeah.
When we came to power in 1977, how much of the country had electricity? 10% or 15%?
Yeah, very little.
Very little.
Yeah.
I was lucky, I lived down 5th Lane, every house had a telephone.
Yeah.
But in most places in my constituency, the village didn't have a telephone.
Yeah.
And villagers without telephones. Look at what the city, how many houses had proper roofs? Charita, one of those who worked on it. We opened out the economy. We got tourists in. We sent people out. Today, how many? The country didn't have phones. Now we have more phones than anything else. Some of you carry 2 or 3. You speak to one girlfriend on one end, you speak to the other girlfriend on the other. That is what happened. You know, these 3-wheelers we brought in. The corrupt politicians brought in the 3-wheelers.
Yeah.
We
And now they are
opened up.
complaining.
Huh?
And now they are complaining.
And they are complaining. The guys who are running the 3-wheelers are complaining. The vehicles that came in. I remember in the youth council, he opened a class to train people to repair air conditioners in cars, because until then there were no air conditioners in cars.
Yeah, right.
So that is how this country changed, and that's because you opened out the economy. And if you had gone faster, we could have done. We can do far more. We didn't.
So on that note, President, now in globalization and also opening up, I think Professor Samarajee also touched upon it, there are a few phases. Do you think like when we opened up in 1977, the rest of it wasn't like the labor side reforms, it wasn't really, the ecosystem wasn't supporting enough to get the growth, because we opened up early, but now we are falling behind and the rest is...
The
Yes.
labor system was there. 2 zones were the best. We didn't go to change the labor law much. We had the 2 were the best. It's a question of, you must have labor laws. You can't be changing the labor laws. People want the labor laws changed, bosses. But then they must bring all the money abroad back also. So it runs both ways. The labor laws, it's not that. You see how it ran.
But do you
Question
still
of giving
think...
people inspiration and telling them to go. Once you give them the opportunity to make money, they will go ahead. I remember a case of one of my constituents who came to me. He had taken a housing loan from the housing ministry and he had not been able to repay it, and he wanted time. So I asked him, I knew the man. I said, I have been to your place, I have not seen a new house. He said, no sir, I took the money, I have got sewing machines and I am supplying cut pieces to some company. That's how, when they found ways of getting money. So he used a soft loan from the housing ministry. People went around, they made money, good or bad, you have to allow them to do it.
Any more questions? We have Professor Kolomage. Can we have a microphone over here? Yes.
Yes, I would like to congratulate Dr. Sarath Rajapatranam for his book. It's a timely problem, time. And he's focusing on policy challenges. I think in the case of Sri Lanka, it's a question of how to deal with so many problems. One is Sri Lanka is caught in technology backwardness, and Sri Lanka caught in lower middle income country. It's a middle income country, middle income trap, because we were elevated to middle income status way back in 1997, and we attained upper middle income status just before the COVID crisis, and later we came down again. So I think the major problem is technology backwardness. If you compare countries like South Korea, they have achieved massive technology development, and President is aware that National Science Foundation was set up for this particular purpose. But unfortunately, we are handicapped in technology advancement, and we are living in a world of AI now, and artificial intelligence. And this is not a question, but this is a comment. And my second comment is on macroeconomic policies. Of course, we can't talk about globalization without focusing on macroeconomic policies, particularly exchange rate management, monetary policy, and also fiscal policy. So these things should going hand in hand with globalization. So unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, exchange rate management is not very conducive to trade growth, export growth. So we can't just focus on tariffs or trade liberalization, but we have to focus on monetary policy as well, monetary policy and fiscal policy. That's my comment. This is not a question, but it's a comment.
Do you have a
Thank you.
response?
Yeah,
Dr. Ivan?
I have a question. Is that I want to ask myself the question: isn't it time for another trade liberalization? Aren't we in time to do another trade liberalization?
We had the national tariff policy which should have come into place on 1st of January, which had the 4 bands.
Yeah.
If you had that in place, we're in a better position to negotiate with US.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, we have one more question.
I was wondering whether I misheard when President Wickremesinghe said we don't need changes in labor laws. I'm asking 2 questions there. One is TAVA doesn't work.
Yeah, not TAVA.
TAVA doesn't work, and we proposed in 2022 that it be replaced with an unemployment insurance fund scheme. And the other is the desperate need that we have for bankruptcy legislation, which is sort of then indirectly affects labor. Why couldn't we get these things done in the last 2 years? And again, now I can remember trying to get this nighttime work rule changed back in 2003 or 2003, when we were bringing the BPO guys in. And now finally, yesterday or day before, I saw that it had been changed. I mean, maybe you created the groundwork for that and these people just implemented it, but I mean, one positive thing that I've seen in the last little while is that one, saying night shifts are allowed. I'd like your comments, sir.
To add to that, that's what I meant by the labor. I was planning to come for that, and also on rationalizing on the leave policy. I think Murtaza went viral on TikTok suggesting to rationalize the leave policy. I mean, is there a way that you get a better quota and you can pick, you can plan better, or like you can claim for the leaves that you haven't taken? That's what we meant, I think, on the...
No, all that were down, but initially we had other things to focus on. And the question was not so much leave, but to get the people back into work or to give them income. But on the unemployment insurance, yes, we are for it. We were studying that unemployment insurance. And the other one you mentioned was what? Bankruptcy. No, Chapter 11 was what we wanted to bring in, Chapter 11, but we just we had to do the main laws, like debt, Public Debt Act and all. Those would have followed. Chapter 11, everything. We need Chapter 11 because if you look at this, the protest against on Parat execution, some have failed, it has to go, but on Chapter 11 you could have given them another chance, some of the other areas.
We have few more minutes. I also have another list of questions, but before that, are there any questions from the audience? Maybe we can come back. I want to slowly pivot back on the globalization and on also the recent comments that you have made. So, on opening up to the world with this new sort of global order, because we have also applied for BRICS. I mean, we have shown our intention to join BRICS on one side. At the same time, you have mentioned now with a bipolar world, it seems that there are regional formation is also taking place. How should we think on those 2 aspects? Because countries like India, they are also in BRICS, but they also seems to be getting a better deal from the US at the same time. So countries like Sri Lanka, how should we look at in this formation in a globalized world?
First, look at what is available. That is India. Start off with that. Have agreement with Bangladesh. I always said do it with the ASEAN countries individually. Actually, Malaysia and Indonesia are waiting for it. Other is China. China was also waiting for one once India was done. We had to do India, we had to do China, we had to do Japan, because there is a deficit and that's working in their favor. So we have to push these three countries to see how to reduce the deficit. Korea, to a certain extent, has taken labor, but there's possibility there. Secondly, we should be able to attract investment from those countries in here. We had discussed with the countries. They said what they can do, what should be done on the short term. But then if you are not prepared to go out, what do? You bargain for that and try and keep the benefits you have in EU. If necessary, we should try and get a bit more from the EU now. And, so you have to work this around. You have India, you have Japan, you have China to work with. Go for those.
Dr. Rajapatra, do you have any comments? Especially I would like to touch upon on the trade negotiations front, because in globalization, trade is important. Generally, when we go through your reading, you are more advocating for a more unilateral trade negotiation on one side. How do you see, because with the new geopolitical order, President Wickremesinghe is more in the view that we have to negotiate with Japan, China, Bangladesh, but at the same time, even our advisor, Professor Arthur Korola, has mentioned the importance of also on one side on the unilateral trade negotiation or trade liberalization. How do you see it on the context of globalization and also on the challenges for Sri Lanka in a globalized world?
Actually, the thing is that when you look at our history, we have done those things and we have succeeded. So why don't we look at history and say this succeeded for a particular reason? The timing was good, but unfortunately there were so many huge other projects taken like Mahaveli, which should have of course been done. But it veered us away from really taking the full benefits of the liberalization. And we could not show like other countries that they succeeded, like we talked about Chile. Chile showed they liberalized, the first poor developing country to liberalize, and the benefits were there to see immediately. We took time, because I have a point, I don't know whether you'll agree with, there was a tussle between the economists and the lawyers.
No, I wouldn't say that. The issue was that there was a full breakdown of capital formation.
Yeah.
And though Mahaveli led to inflation, it created capital. Everyone started going back to being contractors, subcontractors, suppliers. We put that. The second one, by 82, we were coming out of that and we won the election, but then we got bogged down in the war from there onwards.
Yeah.
That's really, from 83 onwards, the war took our, otherwise we were getting ready to open up. There are so many plans President Jayawardena had, but from 83, we were just bogged down in the war. Then of course in 2003, they offered us, we got 4 billion from the aid consortium and $1 billion from the MCC. We had 5 billion, but we never used it.
Yeah. And MCC very sad because free money, absolutely free money.
Yeah, free money. Then the last time we had 600 million, we had this whole, we would have had the whole traffic control system for Colombo.
Yeah.
They said they worked out how much of time we are going to save. I was also very this thing as to why they are trying to give us a traffic system, and then, but we said no. Then we got a high-speed train from Japan.
Yeah.
So we said no to that. So we are like Vesanthar. Whatever comes, we give away.
Yes, Murtaza, there's a question from the front row.
So, both to Dr. Sarath Rajapatira and President Wickremesinghe, one element of globalization is movement of people. And if you remember when the Harvard Growth Lab worked on Sri Lanka and Professor Hausman's theory about tacit knowledge that it is in brains of people, one of the things that they showed us that there is about 8% of our population outside Sri Lanka. These are not the permanent immigrants, these are the people who are gone for employment. And they kind of worked out how many foreigners live in Sri Lanka, and it was like 0.1% or 0.2% of our population. Most global cities have a lot of people born elsewhere. I was speaking at
some event yesterday also, and it was a Swiss chamber, and there were certain people complaining it's so difficult if you're a foreigner to get visas here,
Yeah.
to stay here. They had to get yellow fever vaccines, etc.
Yeah.
When you were in power, I think this has been flagged to you. What is the problem in liberalizing foreigners coming to Sri Lanka? Even this whole fracas about Israelis running things in Arugambe and, you know, the surfing place. I mean, why do we have this aversion against foreigners when we want to go to their countries, basically?
You know, if these rules were there at that time, Arahat Mahinda wouldn't have been able to come in. They said, damn Indian, and they said, "You are Indian," and chased him out. But leaving that aside, no, we want to do the digitalization and then open out after that.
Yeah.
We had so many, but our main focus was just get the bankruptcy over, get the agreements in, and after that go for the rest of it.
We are about to wrap up. Are there any final questions before I give? Yes, we have one more question from Anushka.
I thought that it might be interesting to ask Dr. Rajapatran a question that is less on policy and more about personal and professional career. So Dr. Rajapatran, for you, when you think about how you thought about globalization, its role in trade, what was due for the Sri Lankan economy back then, when you were working with the World Bank and others, and when there was a different consensus around economic policies, and you compare that to how you feel now, also having been a presidential advisor on economic issues, now being more, perhaps more sensitive to issues beyond economics. If you were to contrast Dr. Rajapatran of those years to what you have reflected on now in the book and policy issues around globalization, is it the same? Are there differences? What should we expect in the book?
My point there would be that at every job that I did, I learned a lot. And I learned from a lot of people around. I was very, very lucky to work with the very good economists inside the World Bank and outside. And I learned a lot from them. And then there's the interest in working in small countries. I worked on a lot of countries, maybe about 30 countries when I was in the World Bank. I learned a lot from Indonesia, a lot of what they were doing. So there's a lot. I think the learning part is the one that I will emphasize. I don't think my views have changed very much. I think same old things work because they work. So it doesn't make a difference whether where I am, you know. Yeah. But I worked for 2 presidents also in the bargain. Yeah, and learned a lot from there also.
Okay.